Ever seen this wild tunnel effect in Super Castlevania IV and thought, wow, the SNES was doing 3D back then? Well, not exactly. The SNES had no shaders and no 3D hardware. What it did have was a clever trick, scaling each scanline differently so that the background bent inward like a tunnel. In modern graphics, we don't get that kind of direct scanline control, but the good news is, shaders let us do the same thing. In this video, we'll build a WebGL shader that recreates the Castlevania IV tunnel effect step by step. It might look like a super complicated 3D trick, but the core idea is actually really simple. We're just taking a flat 2D image and we're bending its horizontal lines inward. We can then control the curve of that bend to get this nice effect here. We then scroll it vertically to create that fake feeling of moving through a tunnel. So how does it work? Let's break it down into 3 parts. First, a flat texture, any image will do. Then a distortion function is going to bend our horizontal lines inward. For that distortion function, we'll want to be able to modify the curve of that bend. Finally, we'll need a vertical scroll to add motion. That way, it'll look like our tunnel is spinning. So one way to visualize the effect that we want to create with our shader is if we picture that our texture that we are going to render out is a flat piece of paper. Right now our paper has these red grid lines on it. I want to take that piece of paper and fold it in half horizontally. So once I create my crease in my paper in the middle, as I start to bring the top and our bottom halves together, and so if we were to look at our piece of paper, we would see our grid lines would start to look like this. And so for our texture, just by folding it like that piece of paper, we get this effect here. So right now our folded piece of paper, it's very sharp, and so we get these sharp lines like this. If we try to curve it while we're bending it, almost into a cylinder shape, what would start happening with our grid lines is they would start to look like this. Because the back of our paper is no longer flat and we're curving it on the outside, our perspective would look like this. And so by modifying how much we're bending or curving our paper or our texture, that's going to change what our resulting texture is going to look like. And so by swapping out our paper or our textures, we can get different types of effects by doing the same thing. So if we take our paper that looks like this and we fold it, we start to get this effect here. But now if we curve it instead of keeping it flat, we now get this effect like this, where it almost looks like we're in that cylinder or inside our tunnel. For the last piece of our logic, right now our paper or our cylinder is stationary, but if we start spinning it with our hand, we would get an effect like this. And then so with our texture, we would just need to wrap it all the way around so our ends are touching. And so by continuously spinning our cylinder, we get this nice effect here. So now to get the effect we're looking for with WebGL, first we need to calculate our coordinates. In our shader, every pixel is going to get a coordinate called a UV. Now normally this is going to run from 0, 0 in our bottom left hand corner, and our top right would be 1, 1, and in our center, this is going to be 0.5 for both our X and Y. One thing to note with phasor is our values are actually flipped, and our top left hand corner would be 0, 0, and our bottom right hand corner would be 1, 1. And the effect we're creating, this won't really matter. The same logic we're going to discuss will apply to both. So now for our texture, to get our distorted effect, we need to have our center line for our texture, and then from there, we need to look at each pixel in our texture. We need to calculate how far away that pixel is from the center of our texture. Now depending on that distance, that's going to affect the squeeze, or how far we need to move our pixel inwards to get this effect here. So from our original image, we'll see we're stretching out our pixels the further away we get from our center point. So our corner here has now been moved all the way over here because of how far that pixel is from our center. Likewise, for like this corner here, because that pixel isn't as far away as the distance as this one, we only shift it over a little bit. And now we apply that same logic for every single pixel in our texture. And so we can do that by using this line of code here. Our strength, this is going to tell us how strong the overall effect is going to be and how far we're going to stretch out those pixels. And then our curve uniform, this is going to control if our lines are going to be curved or not. So like in our paper analogy, if our curve is set to 1, we're just folding our paper in half to get this effect, versus over here, our curve is greater than 1, so we get this effect here. And so this function, this is just going to give us our scaling factor for how far we want to shift our pixel. So now for each of our x coordinates, we want to divide it by that scale, and then shift our coordinate back towards that position. That's what's actually going to bend the sides inward and give us this concave look. Now once we've done all that math, we can do our last step, which is just scrolling our texture, and for that we just need to animate our Y coordinate over time. And we'll want to keep this looping so our image will repeat seamlessly, and then that way it looks like our tunnel is spinning around us. So now we just need to take that logic and apply it to our WebGL code. If you'd like to follow along, there'll be a link in the description to the starting source code for this example. So if you'd like to follow along, download that code now, and if you launch the project, there'll be instructions on how to do this in the README. You should see the following here on your screen. So in the starting project template, the code's already been set up to load in a few images that we'll need for our project, as well as the initial boilerplate for our post-effects pipeline for our Phaser 3 game. Right now, our custom shader, it's set up to allow us to pass in a few additional uniforms. All our shader is currently doing is it's taking in the original texture and then rendering that out. So over in our game scene, we get an instance to our custom pipeline, we add that to our Phaser renderer. Once we do that, we create a new image game object and we add that to our scene. Right now our code is set up to handle two different types of images. Our first one is going to be this grid image here, which helps shows off the stretching on our lines. And then our second image, this will be our tunnel image that's going to show our final effect. If we want to switch between them, we just need to comment out our lines of code and we can see our different texture. Once we create that game object, we're adding our custom pipeline to it, and then we're storing a reference to that pipeline. Besides that, we have a tweak pane integration that allows us to modify some of our uniforms that we're going to pass to our shader. So now to add in our logic for our shader, let's go into our custom pipeline. We're going to come up to our fragment shader. Let's remove our code from our main function. So first, for the pixel we're processing, we need to calculate how far that pixel is from the center of our screen. To do that, we'll make a new vector 2. We're going to call this UV. We're going to set equal to our GL, our fragment coordinate. We want to grab our X and Y value, and now we want to divide it by our resolution. So we'll have our uniform for our resolution, and we want to grab our X and Y value. So here, we're taking our current pixel screen position, and we're converting it into a percentage value from 0 to 1. We're doing this across the width and our height of our screen, so that we can use that value for when we calculate how far we need to move that pixel in order to get that stretch effect. Next, we need to calculate how far that pixel is from the center of our screen. For that, we only want to do this for our Y value. So first, let's keep track of our center of our screen. So we're going to do a float. We're going to call this center Y. We're going to set it equal to 0.5. And now to calculate our distance, we'll do a float. We'll do dy. We're going to set it equal to our UV, our Y coordinate, and we want to subtract our center Y. And now for our distortion effect, we need to calculate our scale value so we know how far to move our pixels. We'll make another float. We're going to call this scale. We're going to set it equal to our 1 plus our U strength uniform. And now we want to multiply that. And now we want to do our power function. And so we'll want to take our first argument and raise it to the power of our second argument. And for our first argument, this will be our dy. So how far that pixel is from the center of our screen. Because this value could be negative, we're going to do the absolute value. For our second argument, this will be our curve uniform. Now that we have our scale value, we need to apply it to our x coordinate. So we're going to do our float. We're going to call the centered x. We're going to set that equal to our UVs, our x position. We're going to subtract 0.5, and now we want to divide that by our scale, and we're going to add our 0.5. Now we just need to calculate our pixel's final location, so we can use that and sample that position from our texture. So we're going to do a vector 2. We're going to call this final UV. We're going to set this equal to a vector 2. We want to do our centered x value. Now for our y value, for the time being, we'll just use our original y's position. And now we need to sample this position from our texture and render that out. So we're going to do a vector 4. We're going to call this color. We're going to set it equal to our texture 2D. We want to use our main texture. And for our position, we want to use our final UV. Now that we have our color, we can render that out from our shader. So we'll do our GL frag color will be equal to our color. So now if we save, we should see our effect being applied to our texture. So back over in our scene, if we modify our strength and our curve uniforms we can see how this affects our texture that we're rendering out. And so when our curve is set to 1, if we increase our strength, this will have the effect like we're taking our texture and then folding it like our piece of paper without curving it at all. If we start to curve it to make it more like a cylinder shape, we now get this effect on our texture. Now that we have our main effect in place, we just need to add in our logic so we can have our texture scroll. To do that, we just need to modify our Y value based on how much time has passed and then multiply it by our speed. For that, we'll make a new float. We're going to call this V. It's not a calculated value. We're going to use our fract function. And inside here, we want to use our Y position. We want to add for our offset how much time has passed. And so this will be our time uniform. And then we're going to multiply it by our scrolling speed uniform. And then that way it'll control how fast our animation will play. So now we just need to update our final UV to use our new Y value. Oh, and this should be fract. So now once we save, we should see our new animated effect being applied to our texture. So what our fract function does is this is just going to return the fractional part of whatever value we provide here. So as an example, if I pass in 2.25, our function is just going to return our 0.25 value. By doing this, it allows us to keep our value between 0 and 1, which gives us the effect of having our image loop so it repeats seamlessly. Otherwise, our Y value would be outside the bounds of our 1 and our texture would no longer be visible. As now for our shader, by passing in our strength, our scroll speed, and our curve as uniform values, we can tweak these on the fly. Our strength uniform, this is going to crank up how much we're folding or squeezing our paper. Our curve uniform is going to control that bend, and so how round it will be. And then finally our scroll speed is going to be how fast we're going to spin our paper, our cylinder, in our hand. And that's it. One flat image, a handful of math, and suddenly you've got a retro SNES style tunnel, just like Super Castlevania IV. No 3D engine is required, just WebGL doing the heavy lifting. If you enjoyed this shader breakdown, hit that like button and drop a comment with what retro effects you'd like me to tackle next. I've also set up a Ko-fi page if you want to support the channel. Even a one-time coffee helps me keep making tutorials like this. Links in the description. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future shader deep dives. Thanks for watching and happy coding.